today we're going to take you on London's latest walk, the Railway and Heritage Loop, a wonderful 18-mile walk that'll link together all London's mainline railway stations and many others. And we're starting off at King's Cross, but we're better to set off with Lewis Cubitt's magnificent railway shed behind us, with its two great vaulted arches taking the trains to the north of England or the northeast, London to Edinburgh, Newcastle, York, and many places in between. And what a contrast it is with its neighbour, St Pancras Station, built a few years later, with George Gilbert Scott's extraordinary Gothic station in front. But behind, actually, is an even bigger railway arch shed designed by Barlow. Two great achievements and two ways to set off on this section of the walk. And I have with me the legendary Des Garahan.
I am just so excited to be doing part of this walk and hope to do all of this walk quite soon. 18 miles of heritage, and starting at this place that most people, when they possibly arrive in London from elsewhere, the first thing they do is get off a train and they do walk. That's predominantly what they will do. And as you say, we've got the double arch King's Cross behind us and St Pancras to our right. And of course, if we were back about 200 years, we'd be standing on the banks of the Fleet River, which flows underneath in a pipe, almost directly where we are today. We're barely 100 metres from King's Cross Station. In fact, if I look to my left, I can see one of the double arches that are down there. And we're already away from the hustle and the bustle of the station and the way that people are hurrying away from the station to one of these really quiet sort of pocket parks that we have all dotted all over London. And we're standing in Argyle Square, which I know very little about, except I love it because I'm just a great fan of Georgian architecture.
Well, it's just an amazing survival, isn't it? After all the development around King's Cross, there we have an almost intact, probably early 19th century square. But another of the joys of this area is the fact that there are lots of nice pedestrianised shortcuts that take you further south. And that's where we're going now.
It's both exciting and interesting that we could walk through that gate there as we come through. Not only does it get us to see these quite interesting dual block of flats, but I think they're rowan trees. Is that a rowan that I'm looking at there? But anyway, the point about a route like the railway and the heritage route is that it will show you all of these cut-offs that exist going through estates in London. And indeed, it's always worth, I reckon, investigating whether you can walk through, even though at first glance it often means you're not able to, because often you are, and they are good intuitive links from road to road.
So now we're at a very special place, because behind me is one of the surviving streets, one of the survivals of the great William Cubitt's earliest developments. You see the Georgian houses, the lovely balconies, and here we have Cubitt beginning his work. Of course, as we know, he went on to do extraordinary things, building Belgravia, Pimlico, so much in London, probably one of the most famous of all London developers. And round the corner, though it's now gone, was the yard where he kept all his equipment, etc. So I think in the end, the sort of Burtons had to take it over, and Decimus Burton
Let's make his dream a reality.
Designed most of the many of the blocks in Regent's Park.
So now we're standing in Cubitt Street, and probably the most interesting thing about this for me is that in the middle of the road there, on my right, is about 20 foot, maybe 30 foot underground is a pipe which the River Fleet now runs through on its journey down to the Thames at Blackfriars.
So yes, so you'd have to go back to So even 200 years ago, this would have been covered up.
Yeah, that's right.
But 300 years ago, this would have been in the countryside, and he would be the fleet.
Yeah, that's right. You'd be lapping around your ankles.
So we're about to go past the Mount Pleasant development. Very controversial at the time. Many of the local residents and amenity groups didn't like it and put forward other proposals for getting as many homes on the site. But this was rejected by Mayor Johnson at the time. It's not a bad development, but almost everything now is done in the same brick. It might have been quite nice to let a variety of architects work in on slightly different styles to add a bit of variation. And the next question is really, does it create any more walking routes? And time will tell as it's developed. I worry that it won't increase the opportunities for walking, but who knows?
Salutation, Garth.
Yeah.
And this is part of the postmarked estate development.
But anyway,
Right.
it's really quite nice.
It is.
And the good news is that it is permeable. You can walk through it.
This provides excellent shade in an area that probably had none before and wouldn't have had any shade, to be quite honest.
Yeah. I wonder how old the trees are. Will they
Yeah.
survive? They look as if they've been in a bit, don't they? So the new developments and the terracing gives the wonderful opportunity to see the postal museum behind me, and it makes us think about the development of the post office from the first post routes laid out in the reign of or the first post routes organised in the reign of Henry VIII, right through to the first stamps in Victorian times, and so through to the modern day. A lot of interest in there and well worth visiting.
So we've just walked through the new housing development, and behind me in the background you can see the what looks like a bridge, and indeed used to be a bridge because it used to go over the fleet. So you can see how the infrastructure still is retained for a river that is now buried underneath the road for that. But the bit I want to alert you to is the boarded up pub that's behind me, and that used to be the Apple Tree, and the Apple Tree was where, when the people who used to work in Royal Mail had voted to go on strike, they all used to decamp to the Apple Tree, and it used to be really crowded on strike days.